monsters coming down the hall. Spiders cover all the walls. The serial killer is on the line. Wants to know if you have the time. Aliens are landing soon. This will mean certain doom. A chainsaw sputters and comes alive. Blood and death are close behind. One thing you can be certain of, the zombies just can't get enough. Just one more bite is all they want. The ghosts downstairs are on the hunt. The Shade Chronicles are keeping score. That's what all the writing's for. They record the stories one by one so you don't miss all the fun.
After a moment, a man jumped out of the light, followed by streaks of lightning that flashed past him and struck the wall above Ezekiel's head. Sparks rained down on Ezekiel as he quickly covered his face with his arms. The man, in the alley now, turned swiftly to face the light-covered opening in the wall and extended his arm, revealing what looked like a pistol of some sort, and fired several shots into the opening. The sound of the shots reverberated in the space of the alleyway. Then he waved his arm, sweeping it in a downward direction. The opening shrank in size, following the movement of the man's arm, to the point where it vanished, leaving him and Ezekiel in the dark alley alone.
The second before Julie quickly enters the lake, she can hear the cheers and yelling of support from her friends. As she goes under, the sounds quickly become muffled and the whoosh of the lake water fills her ears. Then she abruptly stops descending and feels pain as her thighs slam into something hard. Taking a quick inventory under the water, but still close enough to the surface to have some light, she realizes she has hit something. Or more specifically, she slid right into the back window, legs first, of a 1973 Buick Century Luxus, and she is now leaning over onto the roof as her right leg is stuck to the jagged edge of the car's back window. Blinking to clear his vision to make sure he is seeing what is there, he sees a blurry form. The form begins to change to a more smoky and clearer shape that resembles a person. Even though it is somewhat transparent, the figure morphs into what's more like a female figure with long hair standing outside on the observation deck, facing away from him.
Alex loved his wife Maggie with all of his heart. He did everything he could to make her happy for the first 13 years they had been together, and, up till now, he never quite got it right. Gehenna smiled at Alex, but it was not a warm, friendly smile, more ironic. He went on, "With my help, I can navigate you around the obstacles that stand in your way. Together we can achieve the desires of your heart. You need only trust me and allow me to be your guide." He reached out and offered Alex his hand. Alex stood up and took it. When he did, a wave of something passed through him. What it was, he wasn't sure or could even describe. It was like a trembling, nervous feeling that had passed from his head to his toes in a flash and then was gone.
The station announcer delivers in a deep, urgent tone, "KCIL Breaking News Update." Then the newscaster starts. "Hello, I am Marcia Sloan, and our breaking news is on the most recent development from the situation we've been following in the following up social site investigation. We now join Corporal Matthew at the police station briefing room with details." He can hear footsteps and what seems to be grinding and sharpening from behind him. Charlie cannot turn to see who it is or what is going on, but he calls out, "Hello? Is someone back there? What am I doing here?"
It was Halloween just before dark, and the streetlights were coming on in the sleepy suburban town of Eureka. The older kids noticed him first. A man in a coat and a hood standing beneath a single street lamp, his face and most of his form in shadow. It made them stop in their tracks and grab hold of the younger members of their group, who protested at impeding their efforts to get more candy. The kids waited until the parents pushing strollers and walking dogs caught up to them. The dark man did not move from his position under the street lamp. "Joey, what's wrong? Why did you stop?" Joey's mother said, and then caught sight of the dark man. "You know, it's a shame what this night has become. It used to be so magnificent and powerful. Now it's just a mockery of what it used to be," the dark man said from his seat in the back. "Uh-huh, well, that's too bad," the male officer responded while navigating the police cruiser onto the main road. "The world has been pacified, taken over by lambs, while the wolves have been banished for being too powerful, too aggressive, too bloodthirsty."
With a gleam of sweat on his forehead, Matt steps back. He leans against the stone wall of the cellar, and he takes a deep breath. He takes a second deep breath and looks down at the person on the floor bleeding, gurgling for air and dying. The smell of acrid sulfur is in the air, and Matt, who has closed his eyes, opens them again, turns his head sideways, and grows a smile as he admires his recent work. Matt's next-door neighbor, who is located behind his home, Casey, is stirred from a morning nap on her couch by the distant sound of the gunshots. Matt is walking backward up his basement steps to the yard and pulling something in a tarp. Then he stops to get a better grip, and an arm falls out of the wrapped tarp. Casey sees all this, drops her binoculars, and begins to limp run across the yard towards Matt, yelling at the top of her lungs in anger and fear, with the mission to rip out his eyes because he has shot someone and it might be her friend, his grandmother.
You better watch out, you better not lie, you better step right or you're gonna die. Don't mess with Santa Claus.
Carl sat at the edge of the bar and sipped a vodka and soda, desperately trying to forget the shitstorm his life turned out to be. He wore a dirty Santa Claus costume, complete with hat and fake beard, which was off his face and hanging down by the strap around his neck. He slumped on his bar stool and tried to forget about all the money he owed Jimmy Two Toes, the local loan shark and mobster who ran the illegal gambling tables Carl lost at most nights. Was it over 10 grand now? He wondered. Had to be at least that. Christ, he was fucked. Carl paid his tab, picked up his empty kettle, and slumped out the bar by way of the back exit. The exit led to an alleyway that was dark and wet from the light mist that had been falling all day. Every surface glistened with moisture and was cold and damp. Carl felt the same way. Then behind him, Carl heard a tinkling sound. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded more musical, like the jingling of bells. Was there another corner Santa collecting nearby? The nerve of the asshole thinking he could take over his territory, Carl thought. Ready to dick punch his competition, Carl rounded the corner of the building where the noise was coming from in a huff. He stopped cold in his tracks when he saw the sleigh and reindeer sitting in the middle of the alleyway. At that moment, the reindeer all stood at attention. They must have thought their Santa had returned to the sleigh and was ready to go. The sleigh lurched as the reindeer pulled hard against their reins. Suddenly, the sleigh was moving fast. Carl had fallen down on the floor of the sleigh when it lurched. He crawled up to the bench again, fighting against centrifugal force. When he was upright, his mouth dropped. The sleigh and reindeer were shooting into the sky, just clearing the nearby building rooftops.
The Shade Chronicles are keeping score. That's what all the writing's for. They record the stories one by one so you don't miss